Okay, great. All right, everyone. Well, hey, everyone, welcome to day 2 of the AI Annual Leadership Conference breakout sessions. Yesterday was a great day. We had a lot of great interaction. Hopefully today is the same. So a couple of things. One is as Kerry gets started, you'll notice I'm going to move all of the people that are on here that are listening to a what we call a panelist view, and that'll bring you into the screen. Your video and audio will be available. So if you have audio on, just mute it. But it'll allow us to interact a little better. And if you have questions, you can just ask them right there live on the screen. You're also welcome to use the Q&A button to ask any questions as well if you don't want to do it in person. But once Kerry starts, you'll see a little blip on your screen that says I'm moving you out of one Zoom into another. You don't have to do anything. It happens automatically. And just kind of give that little 1 second for that to happen. So I will, I'm going to share my screen before I do that. I think I already am, right? You can see that youth discussion, right? Okay.
Yes.
Great. So I'm going to introduce to you Kerry Zach, who is the AI board member as well as the president of the chairwoman of the President's Council, is a tongue twister there. And then Greg Chudikoff, who's the tier 2 chair. They're going to guide you through some of this conversation, and then Gretchen Cockey, our communications manager, will come on at the tail end and do some updates on some club communication vehicles that we have, and talk about a step ahead program a little bit. But without further ado, I'll turn it over to Kerry.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, everyone. Just kind of wanted to give a little bit of update on the President's Council. Obviously, with not much going on right now, we haven't gotten together and we haven't been able to do so in person. Typically, we meet 4 to 5 times per year and are pretty much a support group for one another, running tier 2 organizations. Hopefully, we'll have the next in-person meeting, I would hope in September. But I am going to send out a contact list of all the club presidents with phone number, email. If you guys could just make sure that your registrar has updated all that information in the web tool, so we have all the accurate information. Greg, are you on?
Yes, I am.
All right. Do you want to go over the tier 2 substitution choice applications?
Sure. The substitute choice applications is going to be online. Applications will be starting. The start date will be July 17th. We're doing the same thing as we've done before. We have 3 set dates for hearings. So those are going to be the actual dates that we hear if people are denied a choice. I could tell you that the clubs are doing a phenomenal job on keeping their players. The applications have been going down every year. It's been great. And we do not know where the hearings are going to be yet based on what's going on with the COVID. There's some thoughts about doing a Zoom, and there's another thought about doing it at like one of the hotels that we do some of our meetings at. So those times and the dates are already there, but the locations will be later to be discussed, notified.
Okay. Anything else you want to add regarding that?
Not really. I mean, I think that some of the thoughts before were, let the presidents know when we do get these applications. I think that's something that we need to talk about. Do you still want us to let you know if you got players leaving, if you got players coming? You got to make sure when you have these applications and these players are trying out that they actually do have a choice when tryouts do come. I know that that's been a sore spot, that players are coming, they don't even know they need a choice, or they know they need a choice. And I mean, I think there's got to be some better clarification with the clubs when they're checking their applications for their players, especially if it's a new player. I know, Carrie, we've talked about this before.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. Thank you, Greg. Jim, if you could move to the officer and board member credential requirements. Okay, there's some new process this year that your registrar is probably aware of. But now, since it's somewhat of a downtime, would be a good time for all the officers and board members to go on in and do their USA Hockey insurance, which is free. They register as a volunteer, and they will possibly need to do their safe sport, as well as a new screening process. You guys should be aware that anyone that was screened last year won't need to do it this year. But after that, it's every 2 years. So they need to go in and do that. They'll pay right there. It's all done online. If they have any questions, their registrar can contact Laura Johnson. And then with everything going on right now, if you can move to the tryout one, Jim. Since AI won't be certifying any rosters right now currently, but we can plan for fall tryouts to start as normal. So August 15th, fall season starts with tryouts for tier 1, tier 2 girls, and tier 2 youth, U16 and 18. Then your fall season tryouts for U8 through U14 house league, all ages, can begin then. Mid to late February would be the AHI state tournament finals. March 5th, Central District tournament starts. And then April 2021 is set for the USA Hockey National Tournament. Keep in mind, with everything going on, AHI can extend the fall rosters if they're only going till March 31st. If we do need to take a gap in the season, or we need to have it go longer, we can do that. Let's see. Can you move to the next one, Jim? Thank you. Fall tryouts and team commitments. When you do your tryouts, they may not be considered as making a commitment to the organization, so you cannot add in the part of the fall fees into that tryout fee. Once a player is offered a position on a specific team, the players must commit to the organization and its financial requirements for the fall season. Let's see, fall tryouts and team commitment. Once the team has been formed, on and off ice participation in team activities is considered acknowledged commitment to that team. Players may not leave a committed team to join another team with a different organization unless they were released from the initial organization. If they're on a tier 2 team, they are limited to join a house league or a high school team if age appropriate. And then players can be dual rostered, compliant to the AHI rules. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I think, Carrie, if I could jump in on that, the folks on the line, and this is an important understanding. So if you have questions on this, make sure you ask Carrie and Greg on what's going on here, because I think, we want to make sure people understand this procedure. So feel free to speak up, either just unmute yourself or type it in the Q&A. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, I don't see any.
Okay, we can always come back to that. So Gretchen, if you wanted to go ahead and cover the Step Ahead program.
Okay, Jim, do you want to pop? Thank you. So I believe that the club president, should have received an email from AHI asking you to please place the new Step Ahead logo on your club websites and link to the registration page, which takes you to Athletico. It's very important that you, if you do have that logo up, that you replace it as we have new sponsors. Registration typically opens in July. However, due to the current pandemic, we are pushing that back to August 1st to give Athletico a little more time to get their clinics ready for that testing. Because of that start date being pushed back, we will actually run the Step Ahead program through November 30th. Testing will be at select Athletico clinics across Illinois, and I believe once you register online, you get an email back from Athletico, and they will let you know what the closest clinic is to you. Jim, I know you also sit on the Step Ahead committee. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, just, you know, for those, if anybody on the line doesn't know what the Step Ahead is, it is our concussion baseline testing. It's offered free to the 12U and above age group. And it is something that's done at the Athletico facilities through the process that Gretchen described there. It's run over the course of time. So it's a free baseline testing to help get players back on the ice quicker if they're healed, or to keep them off the ice and keep them safe. So it works both ways, right? It's a safety as well as a way to get people back onto the ice, you know, sooner than later too, as well. So that's the Step Ahead. Anything else in Step Ahead?
That logo or that link, just email me. My information will be on the last page, communications@ahai2.org, and I can get that logo and that registration link to your webmaster.
Okay. And Carrie, there are a few questions that have come in, so let me go back to one of the slides here. So question that came in, the dual roster applies to high school age only, right? Does it apply to younger ages? And then there's another question on dual rostering. Can you clarify if high school is broken away from IHSA? We'll only follow AHI and USA Hockey rules, so we'll get to that one. And Laura Johnson was on the line. She answered a question about the dual rostering. You can review the current AHI rules and regulations regarding dual rostering. You know, our guide, obviously. Examples include females being allowed to roster on a girls and a youth team, and also players being able to register on a youth and a high school team. And Laura has offered, if you have any questions, to give her a call. She put that in the answers on the Q&A, so everybody should have seen that. And then hopefully that answers that one. So examples include, just a reminder, females being allowed to roster on a girls and youth team, and also players being able to register. And let me see the other question about IHSA. I think we'll get to that in 1 second. And then somebody said, I foresee issues with tryouts at the same time between Tier 1 and Tier 2. Why would we not wait for Tier 1 tryouts to conclude before beginning Tier 2? Carrie, you're welcome to take that, or I can answer that. Oh, you're on mute there, Carrie.
I believe Tier 1 was starting right after August 1st, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. And then it's only the U16 and the U18 and girls that can start August 15th. Right.
So as far as, so that, again, August 1st is when the Tier 1s are starting, and they have their dates already set. And then the Tier 2 is not allowed based on our rules anyway, at least from the girls and the 18, 16Us and so on. As we said before, to start August, we go back to the slide here, August 15th. Tier 1, Tier 2 girls, Tier 2 youths, U16, 18. Tier 1s will start August 1. So hopefully that keeps everybody squared away on that. And I know Laura's out there. Laura, anything I missed on the dual rostering that you that you want to mention?
No, I think it's, if anybody has any specific questions, I would encourage them to shoot me an email, text, or give me a call. As well as going back to the tier 2, if anybody has, if they don't know what their tier 2 history is, I can easily look that up for them. All they have to do is give me the name and the date of birth, and I can easily give them their plan history. But no, as far as the dual rostering, I think we're set with that, Jim.
Okay, great. Thank you, Laura. And Anita's on the line as well. Anita, you mentioned you actually have some dates for, I assume, the Tier 1 girls tryouts?
Yes, thank you, Jim. So the girls Tier 1 tryouts are going to be July 27th or July 28th. Tier 1 youth is August 1st or August 2nd. Midgets, Tier 1 midgets are August 3rd or 4th. On the Tier 1 side, 75% of the Tier 1 team may be signed without a tryout. So that should alleviate a lot of tryouts for our Tier 2 organizations with no conflict with the Tier 1s. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Anita. And Jack, you want to handle the IHSA question that was brought up? Can you clarify, has high school broken away from IHSA when we follow AHI USA hockey rules?
Just briefly, hi. Briefly, what we're doing is we are going to set high school tryout dates to begin on the 15th of August, along with the midgets, Tier 2, and so on. It makes most sense. Originally, we were tied to starting when high school programs start, but nobody really knows this year what that might be. So we will be August 15th this year as tryout date starts for high school.
Excellent. Thank you, Jack. Let me see, make sure I got all the questions that are in there right now. That seems like all of them for right now. I'm going to, one thing I want to apologize to Carrie and Greg. I didn't forward their slides on Greg's Tier 2 substitute choice application. He gave you some dates. Here's the actual slide with the dates on it. As he said, location to be determined. So I'll just keep that up there for a few seconds in case anybody wants to write those down so you know what's going on. So August 13th, 27th, September 9th, all at 6:30, location again based on COVID to be determined. All right. And then Carrie talked to you a little bit about the President's Council, so I apologize. I didn't forward that slide. That was my fault. And I would encourage you, having been a past club president, just a plug for the President's Council meeting, for Carrie especially here, that having chaired this years ago and been going to it for many years, there's incredible value there with the club presidents getting together and having discussions. It's kind of where some of the decisions can be made, or some of the thoughts and ideas that you have as a club president or a club administrator, whoever's at that meeting for you, to formulate some ideas. It's the foundation of where we adjusted the high schools to the youth state tournament and how we organized that. And we brought that back when I was sitting on it as a president, brought that to AHI for consideration, and then we adjusted how we did the tournament to make it a little more fair. So there's a lot of, that's just one example, the two choice stuff that we talk about. A lot of that comes out of here, and what as you as presidents discuss and get together and then bring forward as good positive ideas to AHI. It's a very important council, I think, to be part of and to participate in. So if you haven't been doing that, I suggest you do. Okay. All right, any other questions on all that before we jump to the next piece? All right. Let me turn it over to Gretchen, our communications manager, and she can walk you through a couple of quick things on some of the digital media we have.
All right, Jim, you can move to the next slide. So we do offer quite a few newsletters There's Snapshot, which is AHI's biweekly newsletter. It gets sent out every 2 weeks on Wednesdays, typically. That has all the AHI business from girls to high school to youth and all the inner workings of what's going on in AHI. So if you're looking for information, that is always the place to go, as well as ahi.org and ahinews.com. All the snapshots, as well as the monthly publications, there's an archive on ahinews.com where you can find every issue that we have ever published there. So if you're looking for information from a couple years ago, we still have it. We publish 3 monthly newsletters. Girls Snapshot, which Anita Lichterman writes, and we send out typically the middle of each month on a Friday. All of our monthly publications are published on Fridays. Girls Snapshot, Anita does a great job with that, keeping you up to date on everything that's going on in the girls hockey world. Those monthly publications are typically published in season and not during the summer, but there may be special issues that you see come out through the summer. There's IHSHL Snapshot, which is our high school newsletter. That's a really popular newsletter, and that's sent out to anyone that has a registered player within high school. You can always subscribe to any or all of the newsletters. All you have to do is text AHI to the number that's on your screen below. The high school newsletter is typically sent out the last Friday of the month. Jack Weinberg keeps people updated in there. And then Ross Foreman, our high school writer, he typically does a spotlight on a JV player and red varsity, combined varsity, and girls as well as JV. So that's always a fun newsletter. We used to publish a 10 and under newsletter, and we are actually converting that to a coaching newsletter beginning in July that the Illinois coach-in-chief, Jim Clare, will be writing, along with help from Dan Jelanek, who is our USA Hockey ADM regional manager. There will be great coaching information in that on a monthly basis, and that will come out typically on the first Friday of the month, the first or second Friday. Jim, you can go to the next slide. We have quite a few social media outlets: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, YouTube has been great during the pandemic, getting these webinars out live to all of our membership. You can find us on all of those. You can flip to the next one. How can your club maximize communication with its members? I encourage you to publish a club newsletter, whether it's once a month, every other week, whatever is good for your club. There are several clubs out there that do this. I subscribe to any of them that I can find, and most of the clubs do it, or actually all of the clubs that have newsletters do a fantastic job. You know, Evanston has one, the Jets have one. I've seen quite a few. Maintain social media sites. This is an incredible way to connect with your members. And it's also a great way for your members to spread the word about your affiliate, because their friends see what they're posting and sharing from your sites. So it's a great free communication or advertising tool for your club, especially when you're hosting those Try Hockey for Free events. Keep your website up to date. That is typically the first place that someone is going to go to find information. So if you don't have an up-to-date website, try to find somebody in your club that can volunteer to be your webmaster. And flip, Jim. Hockey is back in some form or another. USA Hockey Member Services has put out a great toolkit for return to the rinks, and they offer a great variety of resources to help you get the message out. If you go to the URL that is at the bottom of the slide, you can download a zip file with their toolkit, and they have planned out social media messages for you. They've included photos, graphics, website banners. They have hockey activity ideas. They've got artwork for emails to include in your club newsletters, posters you can hang in the rink. They just have a lot of ideas. And on that same link that's at the bottom of the slide, you can actually, I encourage you to watch the recorded webinar that Katie Holmgren did with her counterpart from, I think it was USA Figure Skating, and ideas on how to communicate with your members. That webinar is an excellent tool to jumpstart your communications person or whoever you have in place that's doing that for you. One thing I forgot to mention, if you don't have a club newsletter and you don't even know how to get started, just email me. I will walk you through it. There's all sorts of different email marketing tools. And I believe, I think, and I'm not sure, I think Sports Engine, I think a lot of you can probably do a newsletter just through your own club's website. But I'm happy to help you get started in any way. Jimmy can change the slide. That's my information. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you in any way. And that's all I've got, Jim.
Great. Thank you, Gretchen. I appreciate that information on communication. It's important, especially today. And nowadays, it's communicating with your membership. So keep that in mind. I'm going to ask, excuse me, I'm going to throw a little curveball to Kerry since Dan Jablonic is on. Dan, if you want to pop your screen up, and I just want to make sure Dan introduces himself to the folks on the line, and especially the folks running at the clubs. What Dan Dan, give me a little bit about your role, what you can do, how you can help the clubs.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. I really appreciate it. First of all, good morning, everybody. Just want to echo the thoughts that President Barrett talked about yesterday. It's so important to realize that USA Hockey is obviously based on our volunteer base. So we really appreciate what you guys are doing. And right now with this fluid situation with COVID, we're not really sure obviously what hockey's going to look like in the fall. And I think the more that we can utilize the resources of AHI and as Gretchen was talking about through the communications and the step ahead programs, there are a lot of really good resources right now that we can work together. We had a great call yesterday with the hockey directors, so I'm really encouraged with that just sharing ideas. Right now as we're obviously very competitive running our own programs, that realizing how important it is to really cooperate to make sure all the kids under the USA Hockey umbrella are getting that experience that they need when they do decide to come back. And that's something I think we need to kind of look at. It's really what is their motivation to sign up when it comes now and to register as well as the fall. I think that's important to really if there is a silver lining in this COVID, it gives us a chance to kind of reflect and look at what we're doing in our organizations to really make sure that we're given that experience that the kids are going to develop that passion and hopefully play hockey for a lifetime. So as Jim mentioned, my role within USA Hockey, we're 10 of us on the ADM staff. So I'm strictly in the Central District, but with 10 of us, I got the country. As a local resource in Illinois, it's we work with associations, with hockey directors, their boards to really give them the latest age-appropriate training, the things that we've learned through our exchanges, within USA Hockey to make sure that those kids are getting the training that they need to make them successful in today's game. So, like I said, working with the associations, the coaches, the hockey directors, we can come in and give informational sessions for the parents. We do on-ice training with the coaches and really just really making sure that we're that resource to give them the latest and hopefully greatest practices best practices, I should say, for the players right now. And it's changing, you know, even our CEP programs have taken some big changes within the last year to really make it more interactive and see that there's some learning going on, and you know, hopefully continue that education. So it's more of a discussion and you know, working on those areas as well. So Jimmy, I really appreciate it. I know there's a lot of people, I see there's some familiar names on the call here. So if you have any questions, love to help, you know, your association in any way. So appreciate it, Jimmy.
All right, great. Thanks, Dan. Any questions for the group that we had on in the audience? No. You have one, Greg, just from the two choice standpoint, what do you see it looking like this year with what's been going on and the way the season really hasn't started yet, and how you feeling on that two choice piece right now?
I've been getting a few phone calls asking about choices, you know, what happens if a club doesn't have central states, and what if we don't have a choice? What if we're a midget? I haven't really heard much about what's going to happen with the choices. It's going to be very interesting because, you know, a lot of clubs haven't been skating in the spring. So how is this all going to work now for kids to have opportunities to go to different clubs? That's going to be a very big question. So I don't know how this could be a different type of year when it comes to substitute choices. I don't know. It's a good question, Jim. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yep. And, you know, from a state tournament perspective, there's two other things I wanted to bring up that came up. I had a side text. Somebody was texting me a couple questions around the state tournament, kind of where we're at today. It is set where it is, and that's going to be the dates, or what are we?
Well, right now, as far as I know, that the Super Weekend dates are March 5th through March 7th. I haven't come out with the rink selection yet because all the rinks have been closed, so I haven't been able to get a hold of any rinks about, you know, getting ice times and, you know, the dates for the round robin and playing games. I haven't done any of that yet. That's still up in the air. I think that's some of the things that I think the board's gonna probably have to need to discuss a little further.
Sure.
As of right now, the dates are, you know, as I said, March 5th through the 7th for the Super Weekend, and we'll backtrack, you know, the round robin and the playing games from there.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's important for everybody to understand that we have to have our folks kind of, you know, nailed down for who's going to advance to the districts and nationals. So for us to move that tournament back, one thing that it's hard for us to do that, right? Or move it, I guess, forward to a later date, or else we won't have teams prepared to, assuming things get back to semi-normal, prepared to go to nationals. So we have to make those selections.
Right.
One thing that was asked, you know, some of the leagues that you play in, though, however, are not bound by that, right? So if we do have a later start date, league play does not necessarily have to end when it typically does. It can go longer. It may they'll have to take a break to allow for state tournament activity to happen, but their leagues and the league playoffs can go typically a little bit later than they normally have if we get a late start. So, Greg, I know the leagues, and Kerry, I know the leagues have been planning for some of that just in case, right? Kind of the worst case.
I think some of the things that could happen, depending on what happens with league play, that I think we could move back the state tournament, and we will still have enough time for the teams to participate in nationals if something does occur later on with the pandemic.
Right. No, awesome. Eric, I see you popped up. Do you have anything from the referee side you want to share with the folks here?
Not exactly. I can kind of cover just real quick some high level stuff that we're still working around getting all of our seminar stuff squared away. You know, the officiating side is kind of on a holding pattern, just waiting for more guidance and information from USA on what we can and can't do, and you know, some of their recommendations. So we're on hold as far as that goes.
Okay. And Kerry and Greg as well. I just got a text on a question about outlining the AI recruiting rules that came up yesterday a little bit as well. Do you want to kind of talk about recruiting and how we handle that? I can certainly chime in if you want as well.
Well, recruiting, the only way for recruiting for somebody to really blow the whistle on recruiting is when a club gets a email or sends an email to rules and ethics stating that there's been a violation of a recruiting. The only way it's going to happen, you know, usually it happens when a parent gets notified that they want to come to a club, and then they get cut, and then they will come to us, and that's a recruiting violation. I think that there's a lot of things that hearsay, but until we get something in by written statement that there is a recruiting violation, there's nothing that AI can do.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you look at it from, or Kerry's back on. Kerry, anything you want to add to that, or?
I think that's something we can talk about amongst the presidents as well, of proposing a policy to help along with that. Us as presidents can get together and draft something that we could get out there.
Absolutely. I think that's a great, again, it's the right form. We've had those conversations in there in the past, and I think they need to continue. From a recruiting standpoint, if you just look at it like this, it's something that you're offering a select few versus all, right? And so if you're out there telling one person that they're going to come and make your top team, are you telling that to everybody? Are you offering that opportunity to everybody? Or are you just focused and targeting on one or two players? If you look at it from that broad perspective, it kind of narrows it down to what you should and shouldn't be doing as a club, or your coaches should and shouldn't be doing. And to Greg's point, it's a very difficult thing to quote unquote prove. I know we do have some cases right now in front of us that Greg and his group are looking at about some complaints on it. But it really takes, I think Kevin Bolger said it yesterday, a lot of times the person that's getting recruited is typically the one that has to kind of bring the complaint forward, and they're the ones being recruited, so they're probably not going to. And so trying to find that information on what it to prove out that recruiting violation is a tough one. So I think it's something that needs to be discussed, continue to be discussed, and the AI board will listen to anything you bring forward from those councils excuse me, on improving that process and trying to help us, because we're only a group of X amount of people. We can't keep track of everybody, so we need the help of the clubs to do that.
I think so as well. One of the main purposes of the President's Council is to have the open communication. So if you're aware that it's going on at a different organization, then presidents should reach out to one another. Hockey directors should reach out to one another and say, hey, I'm hearing this is going on. Let's work this out between us. It's just that open communication where it's not such a competition, that hopefully it could get resolved that way as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you on that. Absolutely. As a former club president myself, it was imperative that if I heard and not just with recruiting, but any type of situation that's bothering you with another club, or that you appears to be, or you have a sense of, talk to each other. And that's why you have these president councils. So you get to know each other a little better, you see each other in person, and get some personal interaction and relationships going. So you can pick up the phone from one club to another and have a conversation about what you're seeing and what's going on in a friendly manner, and not antagonistic, and just, try to talk things out. It's certainly the best way to do that.
Hey, Jim, one of the things that I've noticed in the past, that I have received phone calls in the past, letting me know, hey, my club, some of my players, some coaches on another team are contacting my players and we will make a phone call and we will talk to a club and let them know that this is going on, that you can't do that kind of stuff.
Right. Another question that came in from, I'm just looking at my phone. I got a couple of texts coming through on some questions. Is for the clubs that are out there on the line, has anybody done just a survey of their organization as they stand today of how many are actually coming back to play? Do you have any sense of any drop off, currently that you know of, just based on kind of where, I know it's probably a little early because we don't start till August 15th, but if anybody has done that, or just even an informal survey, talked to people or heard, what are you hearing out there, going back to what Gretchen talked about the membership resources from program services on getting kids back to the rink, how important that is right now, as the numbers are obviously down as far as registrations go in general, because quite frankly, nobody's been really playing until recently. They're starting to tick back up again as more states get back on the ice, but nationwide, has anybody done that or have an informal,
Jim, we did it, Winnetka, we did one this past week, and we asked the question, how likely you are to return. The feedback was about as follows: about 60% said 100% coming back. About 25% said more than likely to come back. About 10% said unsure at this time, and about 5%, 100% not coming back. Now, the people not coming back could have been for a variety of reasons, ranging from kids not playing hockey next year to aged out of the program, as well as, some families with, other family members with, compromised situations. So that's what feedback we got.
Well, that's great information, Jack, Tom, sorry, Tommy Gullen from Winnetka. I think it's a great little informal survey to do out there and get some feedback so you kind of know where you stand. I think that's phenomenal. And I would encourage clubs to do that. If you want to talk to Tommy, he can certainly tell you what he did and how he did that. But I think getting that information out in front of at least the members that you had, and see where they're at and what they're thinking. And even dive into those numbers about if you aren't coming back or unsure why, give them a couple of choices. Is it health related, other activities, or just not playing, so you can really gauge that a little bit, where folks are at. So.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
Just real quick, and I should have mentioned it earlier. If at the president's meetings or any individual club meetings, an IHOA rep would be more than happy to come out and talk about, whatever the club feels they want to cover.
Yeah, Carrie, do you want to touch on that? You can maybe a president's council conversation.
Yeah, we've had reps out from IHOA before for the President's Council meetings, but as well as any club meetings. I personally had them out in the past down at Joliet to go over whether it's getting new officials involved, whether it's talking about any rules, any questions, but you can reach out to Eric and they can set someone up to come down to any club.
Great, thanks, Carrie. Any other questions out there for anybody that spoke, whether it's the officials, Dan Jablonic from USA, Carrie from the President's Council, and Greg from the Tier 2 Committee? Any questions? All right, before Carrie wraps it up, I just want to put one more plug in. Pay attention to, once the season starts opening up, some of the Try Hockey for Free days that are happening, some of the programs that are out there to get kids back at the rink. I think if Tom probably went through the numbers of the ages of the kids that he spoke to, the parents of who's coming back, probably a lot, it would trend to the older groups of kids that have been playing for 4 or 5 years that are coming back. My concern is also the VP of membership here is that we are doing the right things at the youngest levels to bring in the 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds who have not had a chance to do the things that they normally are able to do at rinks with learn to skate, learn to play programming in March, April, May, June, that sets them up to join your 8U programming in the fall. That wasn't happening. And so it's the youngest ages that we really need to focus on as clubs to get out there and get them on the ice and get them back there to replenish those kids as they move through. That this COVID thing, I think, really is going to impact, in my mind anyway, from what I'm seeing, in the most. I think our established players, for the most part, are probably going to come back, but that 8 and under group from the from 4 to 8 has a lot of them that would try the game the first time come spring or summer or not, and because of the situation. So keep your eyes focused on those young age groups in your area, your rink, your club, and make sure we're doing the right things. Carrie, I'll turn it back over to you to close up, unless there's any more questions.
Do we have any more questions?
I don't see any more.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining this morning on Sunday morning. Gretchen, Jim, Greg, thank you. Eric, thanks for popping in.
All right, everyone. Next session up is the girls hockey at 9:30. So we got about 12 minutes before that one goes online. So hopefully you guys and ladies on the phone can join into that call. And we look forward to seeing you for the rest of the day. We also have screening and safe sport important updates at 10:30 with Laura Johnson, Paul Jakubowski, and a cast of others, and then high school hockey at 11:30. So that's what the day looks like. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.